Cool.
But I gotta find, okay, function calling, another. All right, it's loading up.
Yeah.
Share. All right, there we are.
Cool.
So, hey, everybody. Today, Michael and I are going to go through very quickly the function calling announcement from OpenAI and think about how we can use it for automating different podcast tasks. It'll be especially helpful for the craft. Now, there are a million videos about this stuff already, so I don't think we should go too deep into all the various things that can be done with function calling, but we can just focus on the applications for podcasting.
Right.
So here's the announcement, and they're basically allowing for function calling using two new versions of GPT-4 and 3.5.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it's not totally earth shattering as a lot of people are claiming it is, but it's just what it says here. It allows the model to intelligently choose to output a JSON object containing arguments to call whatever functions you specify.
Yeah.
So I think of it really as it's like a helper. It's like support. But it's not totally changing the game. And I think there were other ways to try and enforce this before. It just wasn't supported directly by OpenAI itself. So OpenAI supporting it is just going to make it much more reliable than if it's some hacked together open source project.
Right.
So how does it work? I actually haven't looked at these examples directly, but okay. So the user asks, what's the weather like in Boston right now?
Yeah. And then
I don't want to look at
the column
Perl stuff. Yeah. So so what OpenAI gets is messages, which we're used to, but what's new is functions. And so for each function, you get a name, a description, parameters.
Right.
And I guess we can look more.
There's one question though. So like,
Yeah.
So so this is the message that's being sent to the API, right?
Right.
So like how do you define the functions though? Like how the developer define the function beforehand, right? So if you want to build a boss services and like
so it's up to you. It's just
so I can
yeah.
So like but my question is basically so the message is what is the weather like in Boston, right? So you got to pass that message into it, and then like you probably will have a lot of different functions, right? So this is just one of them to Isabel get the current weather.
Right.
And like I'm just saying, like if in practice when you're trying to develop something like this, so how do you, like, so how do you define these functions beforehand? Before the input, like from the user, the question from the
Hmm.
user that being passed, and then it has to know like you have the functions already defined,
Right.
uh, because that's the whole body of one prompt, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, it depends on the application you're building. You don't, you probably can't use this for general purpose
Hmm.
chatbot in the way they build it now.
Right,
I think plugins behind the scenes probably isn't too different, right?
right.
And
Yeah,
there's
I
a
think it's
because of
yeah,
that,
I
there's a
think it
limited number of plugins, but there's probably
yeah.
ways to like, is it sharding? Is that the concept? Like you can have a bunch of functions, and then you can have the last function be like, what I need isn't
Hmm.
in here, like return a list of more functions I can use. So it can like
Okay,
paginate.
okay, right. Because yeah, so I'm just thinking like if I'm a developer, right? So trying to develop a plugin. So for my website, so for example, so let's say my website does like a couple functions. First one is it can send an email for you if you log in, and then
Hmm.
it also can like set calendar events, right? So you can set like the events with names and with time, whatever. And then another one is might be like getting the current, the list on your the the task on your uh, top list, right? So like your task list.
Hmm.
So that's kind of three functions, right? So each one is email, one is calendar, one is task list, and then so if uh some user like chat GPT, right? So a kind of ask GPT to retrieve let's say like the task list from our website, and then
Hmm.
so basically the GPT has to decide, right? So it has to call one of the functions that we provided, uh, and so but the process it will be hidden from the user. So the user won't say like the GPT model is actually calling the body of it's generating the API call, right? So if with all the I think with all the functions calling updates, right? So we don't have if we don't have the function calling feature right here, so it will
Hmm.
be like you have to have another prompt. So as a developer, you have to write another prompt that to decide if the user asks the task list, and then you have to formulate a API call to us, API call for like certain function, and then you will have to send this JSON call like API call to another boss service, and then the boss service will actually call the send your request, right? Like, let's say it's HTTP request to our server, and then we will
Hmm.
give back the stuff, and then so there's will be another prompt that let the to ask the GPT to write a response to the user with the
Hmm.
data that it retrieved from the server, right?
So you probably
So
still need to do most of those steps
okay,
because in this example, like the response we get is um, just JSON for how to call the function. You don't get
oh yeah,
you don't get a text message in addition to that.
I
But
see.
that's if you we're not forcing it to use the
I see.
function call, but this is what we get.
I see.
So
So it's kind of like,
developers will just have to be mindful of what they're actually getting. And then that's probably not what goes directly to the user. You probably
right,
still need to take that and use it maybe as part of another prompt,
right. I see. I see.
or
So it's
use
kind of like,
those arguments, call the function, get the result, and then make the result part of another prompt.
yeah, I see.
Or maybe
I
not.
think
It depends on the example, right?
right. I think
But
it's just more.
yeah.
It just know like uh after this feature, so GPT will know like it's a function. You have to output a JSON format. So before that, if we don't have this one, so you probably have to teach the ChatGPT beforehand, letting it know like the conditions, all the like so it doesn't know, okay, directly know that if you define a function, you have to call this function and give it a JSON format. But this one is kind of like it just streamlined, standardized the whole function generation process, maybe. Because it
Mhm.
used to be like you have to tell the ChatGPT with another prompt and to let it write out the stuff you wanted. But this one is becoming
Right.
more specific.
When
Is that
you have to do all kinds of prompt engineering to get it to
right?
output in the format you want, and or you have to parse the response to get the arguments that you want,
Right,
because
right,
it might respond with like a paragraph of text with the arguments in it.
right, right,
And actually, I think this example is good. So call the model with functions and the user's input, and then the response is you get the arguments and the function name,
hmm
and then use the model response to call your API. So then we call weather API in this case, and then get the result,
right, right,
the result, and then send the response back to the model to summarize. So there's like the chat history,
right.
and I guess so. There's a new role called function. So like
Function.
the
Okay.
assistant, so user asks a question, then assistant makes the function call, and then
Right,
function is the response.
right,
And this is, when we make the call again to the API, we have to include this message.
right.
And it's the name of the function and then the content of the response. Do we specify what the response looks like?
It it looks like you didn't see, right?
This
You
is
didn't.
just the inputs, right?
Yeah, that's just the definition of
Parameters.
the function.
Yeah. But it's interesting that there's no like definition of what gets returned.
Yeah,
I wonder why they did that.
it didn't say, right? So what's
Yeah, I
the
don't remember
response?
that being mentioned. But so yeah, so this is the request, and then I think the response will be another, like it'll be another assistant response, but it just has this additional information. So the weather in Boston is currently sunny with a temperature of 22 degrees Celsius.
Wait, it's a little bit confusing, right? So the role one is user, and then role two is assistant, and it does a function call. Wait,
Well,
the function
so
call is the action, right?
so these are 3 steps, and these are each done
Yeah.
separately.
Right.
So the first is you call the API with your question, and the function
Wait. Yeah.
information. And then the response is just, this
Give
is
you the JSON format.
right.
Yeah.
And then this call is a totally different call to the API. Like if you didn't include this past information, it'd have no context, right? Because
Right.
you're just
Right.
calling the API from scratch again.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because
That's given the
all the
context.
calls are one shot unless you include a
Oh,
message
right.
history, right?
Right. Right.
So
So
that's what's going
that's the
on.
context.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I see. So that function call, like the assistant, like the second role. So the role, no, the role
Mm.
assistant, and then
Mm-hmm.
content rule, and then function call. That one is the actually the feature that they added. So call function call, right? So
Right. And it's
or is
basically,
it?
I guess, on our own, we have to
Yeah,
translate this into this.
yeah. I see. So it has to be in this kind of format to
Right.
to
And I'm
tell it that we
sure,
got.
I think
Yeah.
LangChain does this kind of thing already automatically for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
think I even think that the so because I read a response read a post on the Stack Overflow.
mhm,
So because I was the other day I was pretty curious like what's the context, like how the context work, right? Like context memory work in the ChatGPT. And
right.
then uh in the Stack Overflow, in that post is basically there's a guy did this little research and said, so the context is basically that like if you're using the UI, the chatbot UI to chat with ChatGPT, and then
Hmm.
basically is that your last conversations will be like becoming so. So you have the first conversation, and then the first QA will be if you ask the second question, and then the first QA will be as the total prompt with the
Hmm.
latest question you asked, and then it will be
Right.
prompt together. So that's
Yeah.
that's the way that it gives the context, right? So
Hmm.
basically the whole like the token size, right? So like let's say like the chat GPT 3.5 turbo right now is like 16K uh contact size, right? So there's
Right.
16K tokens. And then that's the whole limit of the, right? Is that like it's kind of like a window, right? It's like sliding window. So that's the
Mhm.
let's say if you
Yeah.
have like a bunch of a long chat history, and then your your sliding window, that sliding window has a size of 16K tokens,
Hmm.
and then after your chat history getting longer, it will just sliding, and then you lose the previous conversations before, and
Right.
then you only have this kind of window, this snapshot of your current chat history, and that's the
Yeah.
the context it has, right?
Right. Well, was it you who was telling me that maybe there's history? Like
Uh,
it'll have a buffer, like at the top, it'll have a summary of the past history of the conversation.
yeah, I think that's the another engineering that it did. So if you have like the chat history like exactly as what it is, it will waste
Hmm.
a lot of the tokens, right? So if
Hmm.
in order to get more context in, so it probably will like summarize the previous history you have, like each time after you ask a new question.
Right.
So your chat history can be kind of like condensed into a higher degree of context instead of
Hmm.
just one token by one token, and it will retain more information that way.
Yeah. Cool. So let's look at the LangChain integration, which is out already.
Oh,
And we can
function
start
calling.
thinking about, yeah, I don't know, we can get it to like, I don't know, download a YouTube video and transcribe it or something
Right.
with the Whisper API.
Yeah. So
We could start with something simpler.
so this is
But
like
anyway, yeah,
can,
let's look through
you
it.
can use function calling directly from LangChain, right? That's
Mhm.
basically what it is.
Yeah,
You
so
don't
that's
have to
what this
call
is
raw
saying.
API. Okay, I see.
Like when a function should be called, you describe the functions, right? This is the same as what's on the OpenAI website. So
Uh-huh.
then, so this is just an example of, I guess, using it to search for stuff.
Okay.
Oh, and it actually, this is a pretty, there's a lot going on in this example. So it
Yeah.
has,
SQL
there's a
database.
SQL database. It does web searches. All right, let's see what it's
Wrapper
doing. So here it has tools, but are these, does this get translated into
functions, right?
functions? It's not very clear. OpenAI functions. Okay, I guess this is so this is a new type of agent. It
Mm-hmm.
has these tools.
So it's kind of store. It kind of store the function definition in the tools.
But this doesn't, um, does this have all the information? Like, I don't know what's in
Probably not.
search.run.
Search.run is the SERP API wrapper, like the second row after a defined LLM. If you look up,
Right, but I
yeah,
don't know what
that
it's
one, right?
what that looks like. And like if you know, this
Right.
putting them as arguments in this tool
I get. I guess it will
function.
just kind of decode like automatically. It just kind of like abstract away those functions, maybe. So it will use
Maybe.
the initialized agent, right? Tools. It probably will just go to the bottom definition of that function. Might be maybe. Because
Right.
the isn't the SERP API wrapper is imported right from
Yeah.
LangChain?
But I wish there was something here from scratch. Like I'd like to see what it's actually doing, you know.
Yeah, me too.
Um, maybe we can play around with it, or somebody's probably done a YouTube video doing this
Yeah.
already.
Let's say the agent wrong. So agent wrong is like you ask the questions, right? Who is
Yeah.
Leo DiCaprio's girlfriend? What is her age? Is to the okay. And her name,
19-year-old model. Oh, that's a lot younger than him.
right.
Okay. Weird example question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to know
Yes.
what it's actually doing. Let's see what's multi-functions agent. An agent. How is this different?
So it's calling the API for you, right? So like
Right.
LangChain's agent calling the API for you. It's not like the GPT calling the API. GPT only format the JSON,
Right.
if I'm understanding this right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, this seems, I don't know what Merkle is, but it seems
Marco
like,
is another agent defined, I guess. Right?
I don't see it defined anywhere here. Oh,
Here,
Merkle.
Mark.
Initialize agent. Oh, reverse true. Maybe this is why it'll give us some more information.
Yeah.
Oh, that's helpful. So I think this is all, it's all here.
Right. Let's walk through this.
Oh, that's a good tip. So always use verbose true. Well, here it's
Now I'm
true
gonna use.
too.
Okay.
But that's still
Why is
not
it
very
different?
clear. Yeah, I don't, I guess it's the agent type. This is an open source project, so maybe it's just different people with
Probably.
different ways of implementing it. But this one seems better,
Right.
right? OpenAI
Oh,
multi-functions.
multi functions. Okay.
I don't understand why there's this difference, but anyway, this seems much
Right.
clearer, right? So chain start, agent executor, here's the input.
Entering.
And that goes to the LLM start. So this is, from chain executor to the LLM chat open AI during LLM
So
run with
this
input.
is given a prompt.
Yeah, so here's the
Right.
prompts. It's a generic prompt. I don't know where that was set up, but
Yeah.
anyway.
And
So, and that's end. And I guess is the response.
the first two.
Exiting LLM run with output generations.
Text.
And there's the arguments. I thought I made this line graph. Okay. Actions, action name, search. Action tool input, weather in Los Angeles.
Okay. San Francisco.
Function call. Okay, so the call is for
Tool selection.
tool selection.
Where's tool selection?
It seems like this is related to deciding what tool to use. Is that right?
Yeah, but is that from that's another function, right? If there's like an algorithm to decide which tool to use.
Right. Well, it's part of the chain. So maybe LangChain can, or this
Okay.
agent can
Okay.
parse this, but shouldn't it be tools, but the only tool is search.
Yeah.
But maybe, I guess it's a standard part of the process that tool selection happens before actually calling a tool.
Right. Maybe.
So so it gets this information about tool. This is another case where it'd be good to see a little bit more of what's going on under the hood.
Yeah. Maybe the name. Maybe like the tool selection is came with the agent, I guess.
Yeah, it must have been this agent executor
Did a tool
is
selection first based
right,
on the tools they have. They have.
right. So then entering tool run with input. So tool input is weather in Los Angeles. Is that just the same as the prompt? No.
No.
Oh, this is, I
This is
guess it has
from,
to
yeah,
loop
from the tool
through
input.
multiple
Yeah.
because it's asking about LA and
LA and
SF.
NASA. Yeah.
So it split that up into two different
Collins.
tools, I guess, that it's going to use, or tool calls. So anyway, tool input, weather in Los Angeles. Tool end goes through tool search.
Accident tool is output. So that's the search result.
Oh, right, because the tool it used is the only tool it
Yeah.
has, which is search.
Yeah.
And so it gets back,
Right.
I guess, a string of text. And
Right.
then it does the
This
same
from,
thing.
but it didn't like, I think it also, this one hided the API calling process, right?
Right.
So there should be like a JSON, format of input and output from the API, and then I guess they just kind of like extracted the results from the API response
Yeah.
directly for the two output.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this doesn't seem like a great example either.
Right.
Is this even using the function calling? It might just be using something LangChain had before anyway.
Yeah. A little bit confusing.
Yeah.
Oh, a Merkle agent is a different one. See that?
Right.
The
Oh, yeah.
It's not an agent. It's a different agent.
All right. Well, now we're off track.
Yeah.
uh, but we can at least find this comparison on Reddit. Function calling. Somebody found it faster and easier than the agent options from LangChain.
Okay.
LangChain is more portable, more deterministic.
One is willing to make the trade-off of the owners. It's a full interlock. Okay, and dependency for having the same thing. You use the combination of a LangChain agent and two tools. One custom tool and DuckDuckGo search tool that utilize OpenAI function calling.
Sounds promising.
Wait, but the function calling, like OpenAI function calling, it's not an agent, right?
Right.
So,
And I
so
think
it's,
to make it useful, it needs an agent.
yeah, it needs the back
Otherwise,
and
you're just
forth
doing
process.
one-shot
Right,
calls.
right. Because I don't, I think so. Like you have to define the functions. Came with the first prompt, and OpenAI see the user question, and then it will decide whether to call this function or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it provides, right? But you need like a third party agent to go back and forth to do the heavy lifting stuff.
Right. All right. I don't really see quickly how to get through this. Oh, this is all Streamlit stuff. Where's the custom function? Is it this custom tool? Oh, here.
Search.
Oh, get registrar tool. Name, get registrar, description. There's the argument schema.
You call the checkpoint. There's not a function. Check input. Okay, get registrar check input.
All right, I have to look into this more. But it seems like this person might be using both.
It's an email. So you have to log in. You user have to log in.
Yeah. I don't know. All right. I guess we didn't get to quick applications for podcasting. I was trying to think of some.
Right.
Anytime we need structured data.
Structured data. You mean like using a function calling?
Yeah.
So you mean like to use function calling to get the transcription? Or wait, let me see. How do you
Or what if we gave it a transcript with timestamps and then we told it to create chapters and it would return in a specified format the timing of the chapters and like a name for the chapter.
Yeah.
And then we could use those arguments to create a cut of the video for that chapter.
Okay. Yeah. That's what we tried to do before.
Right.
That's like that's like you using the vector database.
Well, I'm thinking
How do you use the function calling in that step?
right, the transcript's still too long. That's the
Yeah.
bottleneck still.
Yeah. So then you have to kind of like, but there's another one though. So what if that function calling has to be calling an API?
It doesn't have to. The only thing. So I think the breakthrough is like you can get structured data out of ChatGPT. You don't need it. You don't need to do anything with it in terms of like making it an input for an actual function. Like we could just have it output a JSON object that has like tweets and LinkedIn posts for the episode that we want to share. And it's just like structured in an organized JSON object. instead of us having to make a bunch of individual API calls for that and then like copying and pasting it into a document.
Okay. What if you define a function though? Like, let's see, uh, another function. So if you have another Python script, and then your input will be like the transcript, right? And you basically first you have to get it embedded into a vector database.
Mm-hmm.
So and chunk, like you gotta chunk your different, like make it different chunks for the
Yeah.
document, for the transcript. And then what if you uh make that function calling, you define the function of how do you want to do with the data, the transcript. For example, if you wanted to summarize, cutting into chapters, and
Mm-hmm.
then using ChatGPT to call that function, using the function calling to call that function, they've defined. Yeah, wait, no, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, right. Yeah, but I should probably like look in more to this and see how
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah. Look into it more. I
Right.
think there were also cases when we were doing the auto video where we wanted it to output
Uh-huh.
text in a certain way, like the TikTok video, like Q&A with Abraham Lincoln, and it kept
Uh-huh.
jumbling it, like it
Oh
didn't
yeah.
structure it in an organized way, or the formats would be different.
Right.
With function calling, we could make it like explicitly structured the way we want it.
Right. Wait, but right. I still like I still didn't get the connection between like the function. Where's the actual function though?
It's on the like the client side, it's on your side. Like all
Yes.
OpenAI gives you is the arguments for the function. And then you have to run the
Right.
function or not.
After we run, so, yeah. So, but you basically you're calling a function that basically give you a structure the QA data.
Mm-hmm.
And what is in that function?
In the what function? Say that again.
So if we want, let's say like the last time the TikTok that we have a
Mm-hmm.
QA, and then if we
Right.
wanted to use the function calling to give us structured JSON format of the QA,
Mm-hmm.
so we have to call a function to process those QAs, right? Is that what you mean?
We could, I mean, or we just use it in something else. Like we don't have to have another, like we don't have to have a conversation with ChatGPT about it or GPT-4 about it.
Okay.
Like if it gives us the Q&A text that we want, then we can go, do the text to audio and put it into a video and all that stuff. Like we don't necessarily need anything else from GPT-4 from that.
Right. I see.
So it's function calling in the sense that it gives us the structured data we need to call functions on our side.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like we're not actually calling a function. Instead,
Yeah.
we only
Then
need the format.
right. I guess the name is confusing because OpenAI
It doesn't
isn't
call
directly
function.
calling any functions. It's just
Yeah, it's
yeah, they
formatting.
should have just called it yeah, JSON output.
Right. It's very
Yeah.
confusing, you know? It's very
Function
confusing.
calling makes it sound fancier than it is.
Yeah, it feels like you just can do the function calling like API call for you,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
I
it's
was
actually
confused
not.
by that at the beginning too.
Right. That sounds like an agent rather than like a GPT model.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Maybe yeah. We can see like what can you can do with it.
hmm
But
Yeah.
last
We'll look
time
in. Mhm.
the last time when we tried to like to see the last one that we trying to use LangChain to do to store the transcript into a vector database and then and then to ask it to kind of cut chapters for us in
Right.
that way. But it's a
hmm
little bit off. I remember because
Yeah.
it's pretty hard to. So it doesn't. It still don't have. It still doesn't have the whole context, right? So it just basically, if you ask a question, and then it has to do like a similarity search first, and then it
Yeah.
only retrieve portion of the text, and then if you wanted to to know the whole transcript, the whole long transcript, it kind of can't do that right now.
Yeah.
You only have like if you ask certain questions about like what this person said at this time, and then it knows, right? So it will just go to the specific text, and then the text will be combined with the prompt and go into ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT have that then return something for
Yeah.
you. So it's not like it has the whole context compressed and then have all the context of the whole transcript, and okay, we can cut the chapter here.
Right.
But the last one, the video that you showed me, like the send me, the one that the guy did, like extracting topic out of it,
hmm
that might work, right? I guess,
Yeah.
right?
Give it a try. All right. I gotta
Sure.
go.
All right. Cool. No problem.
Yeah. But this was fun. I think we still got to think of a specific application. I think at least we could try it with the auto video thing
Hmm. Yeah.
or generating like tweets and LinkedIn posts for interview follow-ups.
Right. Good idea. I think we can work on some of it.
Yeah.
And I gotta look into it. I'm still confused.
Yeah,
I
watch
didn't
a
look
couple
into the
more, a couple
yeah,
summaries. And yeah, the stuff I shared is good.
right.
All right.
Cool.
Have a good night. Bye,
Have a good night.
everybody.
Bye everybody. Have a good night. Or good morning.